It's Only Sport with Martin Devlin on The Platform. Brought to you by One New Zealand. Let's get connected.
Murray Mexted joins us. 2:27. Mex, first and foremost, your thoughts from Joburg. Did we blow that test?
Well, I think we spoke about it last week, didn't we? And exactly what I said happened. We weren't quite good enough for 80 minutes, and part of that was to do with altitude, and the rest was probably the inexperienced squad. You know, I mean, that's the way it was. I mean, I will say I thought we played really, really well for three-quarters of the match.
Yes.
And it was a delight. But that was inevitable in many respects, Marty. I hate to say that again, but it was because, you know, a lot of those guys, or a number of those guys, had never been to Ellis Park and played at altitude like that with the ferocity of the environment. And I will say, I will mention it again. And so what does that do to a rugby team? It puts real heat on them to perform. And that's what they did. They really performed. But it was inevitable in many respects because, you know, the much revered bomb squad, I'm not altogether saying they made a difference. What I'm saying is they retained their quality for 80 minutes. You know, and maybe they lifted in the last 20 because we faded. And I think that's probably what happened. I mean, some of our players had the best games I'd seen for a long time. Blackadder, I thought, was outstanding. TJ Perenara was absolutely outstanding. Will Jordan was good too. You know, right across the board, you'd have to say that's probably our best team at the moment. And they played pretty bloody well. And why they were replaced or substituted is probably understandable because, you know, it's the altitude and the sting's gone out of your tail after you played 60 minutes. So they subbed them, but the players that came on didn't make any difference, or in fact probably had less impact than the existing players that went off. But that was not to be known by Scott Robertson. And by that stage, you know, we were looking like we needed to refresh a bit. And I think we were caught a little bit with their surge. I think the penalty count went against us seriously in that last 20 minutes. You know, there were a lot of inexperienced players on the field too. When you look at the players that came on, the only one with any real experience was Tonga Farsi, who's not really a leader, a very good player and very consistent and good over the years, but not a leadership player. So, you know, in many respects, I hate to say it, but it was predictable.
What kind of changes do you think we need for Cape Town then, or do you think that he won't make any changes at all?
Well, in my view, those guys that started the game did bloody well. And remember, as I said, there were only two positions I would have changed from the squad that's in South Africa. And those positions were Leonard Brown at centre, because I think he distributes better, and certainly at altitude there's going to be a lot of movement and there are going to be a lot of tries scored. So I thought he was one, and the second one was at lock, only because I didn't think he was big enough to mark the physique of the Springbok forwards and their aerial possession ability. So, you know, I was pretty much in favour of the team that went on the field. And I think they played bloody well. I think it wasn't their fault in the last 20, so the team will be pretty similar. There might be one change, that would be about all, and that may be Leonard Brown at centre, but no, I think they'd be pretty much the same.
Mex, as far as the loose forward trio goes, are you keen on giving Satiti, Hawkeye, Finau, these guys game time, get them into that, or do you just think that we've just got to settle on this combination at the moment that we've got? And I'm asking that question with Papali'i rumoured to be fit again. Does he come back in?
Yeah, I mean, you don't give guys game time against the Springboks at Cape Town. You've got to play your very best players you can play, the guys that are on form, because it's going to be another torrent affair. And our last conversation, I hope that we were good enough to win the Cape Town Test, and I think we are. But we need to have every gun we've got in our holster, I'll tell you, to win that one. I'm not sure of what the weather's going to be like and whether what the referee's going to be like. It all influences the game. But I think we probably were found wanting on our strategic response in the last 20 with the new players on the field. So I think it's going to be another hell of a game, but you don't give guys a run just to grow them. They've got to earn their place in that team. In fact, I'm a critic of the substitution with 20 minutes to go at sea level, unless a player is exhausted. And, when you've got your heart in it and you're dying for the cause, exhaustion's out the window. There's a certain amount of fatigue, but there's no exhaustion. And they're different. And so, and mental strength, that's how you grow your mental strength, actually. It's one of the ways you grow it till you become, awesome in that area. So the answer is no, I wouldn't bloody play too many players at all. I'd leave the team as they are and say, you guys did the business for 60 minutes. We're at sea level now. Do the bloody business for 80.
Murray Mexted, one of our greatest number 8s for the All Blacks, is with us. How do we tactically contain that bomb squad? Because you could almost feel a collective sigh of, oh, God, here they come, when 5 of them came on in the 48th minute. But for the first 15 minutes they were on, we did contain them. Then we got overrun in the last about 18 minutes or so. So looking at that, what do you think? Is there an obvious answer to how we combat that?
No, there's no real answer, but I don't think it makes any difference, to be frank, to their strength. And, in our strength, these guys the starting lineup can play 80 minutes, and you probably shouldn't substitute any of them. No one deserves to be substituted, in my view. You name one person, one of those replacements that came on at Ellis Park, that should be playing, that should be starting. Leonard Brown would be the only one you could ever say there's a possibility. You can't start anyone else.
Well, Mex, I'm not so sure that the guys on the bench are better than those on the field, and I think that's what they have as an advantage over us, that they're bringing guys on that at least comparable, but I'm not sure that our guys are as good as those that were first selected in the 15.
Well, you said two things there, Marty, and I think they're both right, but they were contradictory. You said two things. You said bring on better players, and then you said later in your comment, players that were equal with the guys that went off. They can substitute, and they don't lose any strength from that. And depending on the tactics that they're trying to play, those substitutes can assist, in dominating for a certain period of time. That's a different scenario. I don't think that's a major. Honestly, I don't think it's a major. It's great that they've got the bomb squad. Some of those guys, Esterbeth is exceptional, and he shouldn't have been there because he should have been on the field. But some of those guys aren't any better. I think the hooker probably is better. Malcolm Marks, he's a hell of a rugby player, and he probably should be playing, starting the game, in my view. It's really interesting looking at this Tamaiti Williams selection. He's gone from being an inexperienced kid with a baby face 12 months ago to an enormous physical presence who's probably proven on Saturday that he's got what it takes. In the old language, and a lot of us still talk about the old language, he's 6'5" and 22 stone.
Yeah, it's huge, mate. That's a lock back in the time when you were playing, a South African lock.
Yeah, and we had some big Kiwi locks at the same size, Paul Tura and these sorts of guys back in the day. But for the younger listeners, that's 144 kgs and 1.96 metres. So that's a big man.
It's Only Sport with Martin Devlin on the platform. Brought to you by One New Zealand. Let's get connected.